Good afternoon, thank you for coming. So I'm Lorène Jeantet. I'm a postdoc at AIMS, African Institute for Mathematical Sciences in South Africa, supervised by Emmanuel Dufourc. And today I'm going to show you how we can use deep learning to monitor wildlife. So I'm sure you have already heard about deep learning. It's this kind of word that's getting into our life, like every day, from the radio, from the TV. It's maybe not deep learning that you heard, it's maybe more artificial intelligence, but basically behind artificial intelligence, most of the time, deep learning algorithm is hiding. So I wanted to start this presentation with a small video. Okay, let's try again. Yeah. Okay, so it's very important to show you this video. So what I wanted to show you that because, so it was presented by Dr. Nico Sibe from Romania, that's why it's like Romanian money, and at the machine learning summer school last year in Stellenbosch where I was, and I found it quite funny first and quite impressive as well to see that. And so what they did, their team, they used deep learning algorithm to like animate picture from video taken from people. And it's kind of what's happening now. It's like deep learning, I find deep learning, even if I'm working on deep learning, I find it's quite impressive what we can do now with deep learning. And you can also see that this kind of thing, it's like kind of occurring in our daily life, because you imagine like all this fake video now that we can have, it's coming from this deep learning algorithm. So, no. So deep learning now is everywhere in our daily life, even if you don't really know. It's like all the social media, they are using a deep learning algorithm to select the video that they want you to watch. Translator, obviously, the autonomous driving also is a lot about deep learning. The chatbot, like you know ChatGPT, you have already heard about ChatGPT, so now it's possible to communicate with artificial intelligence. They are able to generate answers that they learn from all the information on internet. So basically deep learning is everywhere. There is a huge development of deep learning with the big tech, with Google. There is a lot of money, Google, Facebook, all these big companies invest a lot of money on that. And the idea is how can we use that to monitor wildlife or to use it for conservation. But so maybe first we can start by thinking of what is deep learning. So deep learning is a subset of machine learning, which is a subset of artificial intelligence. So here you have the three main words that I wanted to introduce. So artificial intelligence is a technique that enables, without S, machines to mimic human behavior. Machine learning is a technique to teach machine to perform tasks automatically. So basically, artificial intelligence use machine learning. And so what we do in machine learning is we teach algorithm, which is computer, to perform a task. We give them some data, and we expect the output. So this is machine learning. And deep learning is a type of machine learning inspired by the structure of the human brain. So if we go a little bit deeper in deep learning, but not too much, so this is, so it has been inspired by the human brain. So maybe you know, like this is connection of neurons that we have in our system. So when you can see a cat, what's happening? You have a message that is that's going through all the connection of neurons. Some are activated, some are not activated. And according to the pattern, the brain is going to be able to tell you, okay, you are watching a cat now in front of you. And you learn kind of this information when you were kids. So it's kind of the same with deep learning. So this algorithm, we are also calling them a neural network. and they are trying to represent that, but instead of biological answer, it's more like mathematical operation. So you have a lot of mathematical operation organized in layer and with that we call neuron. And same as the human brain, we are teaching them to recognize, so we are giving them an image, we are giving them the label, the cat, and we are teaching the algorithm to be able to, when you see the image, okay, you know the operation behind, and you can say, okay, here you have a cat. So maybe if I ask you the question, like how do you know here you have a cat, and how do you know here you have a dog? I'm asking you, do you? You just know. So what are we using to know that here we have a cat or here we have a dog? So we learned when we were young, but what we are going to use, it's the shape of the body, maybe of the tail, the distance of the egg, of the eyes, of the size of the nose. All of this information is what we are going to use to dissociate a cat from a dog. And it's kind of the same for the deep learning algorithm. They are going to be able to work on the feature of the image to be able to know if it's a cat or a dog. And the main operation to do that, it's a convolution, and then I'm stopped here for deep learning. So it's like when we are using a lot of filter that is going to apply mathematical operation and then is going to highlight some characteristic of the image. And so a deep learning algorithm, it's like thousands of kernels like this, and then the algorithm is going to learn by itself to recognize which feature are interesting to identify the cats, the city, the human, or whatever it is. So, okay, I'm stopping here with the definition and deep learning, or mostly like the mathematical definition, but the question is, how can we use deep learning for wildlife monitoring? So, a little bit of introduction again. So, I'm working with Emmanuel Dufourcq at Muizenberg. So, Muizenberg is like 30 minutes south from here when there is no traffic. And we are part of the Machine Learning for Ecological Research Group. So as I told you, there is a huge investment in machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence, but not so much in ecology. And what we are trying to do is kind of to build the bridge between ecology and computer science, to try to help researchers to answer to ecological questions, to process automatically data, big data, because now we are collecting a lot of data, but after that we also have to process them. So it's what we are doing. So this is a website. We are still a small team. These are the students with who we are working. And today what I wanted to do is to show some projects in which I have been involved, to show you how we use deep learning to monitor wildlife. So the main things that we are using in our lab, so there are many ways to monitor wildlife, but the main that we are using, it's video recording, passive acoustic monitoring, and remote sensing, because we are thinking they are not so much invasive, so which is quite nice and can be easily deployed according to where you deploy them. And so the main project that I wanted to show today, so it's the one from my PhD that I did in France, so which is identification of behavior of sea turtle using remote sensing. Then I'm going to talk more about passive acoustic monitoring and how we are using it to automatically detect the hidden gibbon calls. And the last one is a more like a local project, because it's to monitor the endangered African penguins using video recording. So for the first one, so just to give you an idea of the situation of the population of sea turtle, at least, there are 7 species and 6 are on the USCN red list of the threatened species, and the 7th one is not because we don't have enough data. So the population with which we are working is based in French Guiana. And just to give you an example, so the number of leatherback turtle nests per season has dropped from 50,000 in the 1990s to less than 200 in 2019 in French Guiana. So there is a huge decline in the population of sea turtle in French Guiana. And so we have leatherback, so it's this big, the biggest species, but green turtle as well is following the same trend. So we want to study them, we want to understand what's happening there, what they are doing in the water, and all of this. Because in French Guiana, they are coming on the land to nest, but then we don't know what's happening And the main reason of the drop, we are thinking it's a bycatch, so fishing bycatch. We want to understand like how they use the environment to try to find a good protection, good area to protect. So what we are doing, we are using accelerometer. So accelerometer is a piezoelectric captor that we put on the individual like this. We are putting 3, and that measures the force exerted on a mass and translate them into electric signal. So we can measure the gravitational acceleration, which is going to be related to the body posture of the animal, because if your animal is like on the back or on the belly or on the back, the gravitational acceleration is not going to be the same. So it's going to give you an indication about the posture. And then we have the dynamic acceleration, which is more related to the movement of the animal. And here's a kind of signal that we get from a leatherback with the accelerometer and over the time. And you can see that maybe the first difficulty is going to understand what's happening here and which behavior we have here. So here it's an example of 2 weeks of deployment of accelerometer, also on leatherback. And you can also see that the first difficulty is, so we want to know the behavior, but we don't want to do it manually. Because obviously it's a lot of data, it's recording at 50 Hertz, so it's quite precise. And so you really have to go deep into the data to understand what's happening, and you don't want to do it manually. So for that, we are going to use a deep learning algorithm to do it for us. So the first thing that we have to do, we have to validate the acceleration signals. It means like we don't know really what's happening, so we want to associate a precise behavior, and we want to create kind of dictionary to teach the algorithm, to be able to say, okay, this is the signal, this is the behavior associated. So to do that, we deployed an onboard camera that you can see here on green turtle in Martinique, which is a French Caribbean island. Because the French Guiana is here, it's nice, but the water is not nice. It's like brown, and you don't really want to swim there. So here it's way more better. So the water is blue, and we have a huge population of immature green turtle. So we deploy this camera, which is associated with accelerometer, gyroscope, GPS, capture pressure, and all of this. So we equipped 13 individuals. We got 66 hours of recording. And we identify 7 main behavioral categories, which is swimming, gliding, breathing, scratching. So it's when the turtle comes to the rock and like scratch, or feeding, resting, and all the other behavior that couldn't fit in these categories. And so the main part was to analyze all this video manually to identify the behavior and to associate the acceleration signal with the behavior. So here you have an example of the video and then the acceleration sequence. And so my main task was to, okay, she's sleeping, she's scratching, now she's swimming. So it was quite a long work. But also it was nice to kind of dive into the world of the sea turtle. And sea turtle, we're thinking that they are quite solid. Yes. But actually, we saw quite a lot of interaction like this. So it was quite interesting to have all this data. So then I'm like going to skip the technical part of the deep learning. But so this is the result that we got. So we trained an algorithm to do that for us automatically. So in blue, what you have is the behavior that we observed from the video recording, and in red, the behavior predicted by the behavior. And we got a global precision of 98%, which is quite good. And the behavior that we are particularly interested in was feeding behavior, which is difficult to identify from acceleration. And we got also good results. So we were quite happy with that. And the next part of this, it's application. So we deployed accelerometer on 20 green turtle in Martinique. And here it's what we have, it's like the application of the algorithm. And so every dive, so here it's the pressure, so it's a dive that they perform, and we associate with the main behavior expressed. And it gives you an idea of what's happening and what they are doing. So now we are kind of able to know 24 and 24, 7 day on 7 day what they are doing. So like At the beginning, they are swimming. They are doing quite a deep swim. Then, obviously, the night they are sleeping. We can know when they are eating. And interestingly, we found that they are doing this quite deep dive during the middle of the day, either to swim, either to rest. And we don't really know why they are doing that. So it's still something that we have to figure out. But it was quite interesting to go through the daily life of the green turtle. And they are not eating so much compared to what we expected. And about the conservation now, it's quite interesting because now, before we could also put like GPS on the turtle and know where they were, but we weren't able to know what they were doing. So now it's possible to associate the behavior with this GPS information. So it's possible to say, okay, now we know that individuals are sleeping there during the day, or they are feeding here. So it's going to help for conservation measure behind to like focus the protection area. Because so Martinique is quite a touristic place. There are a lot of tourism, so there is like disturbance because of that. There is a fishing activity, so it's easier to talk with fishermen when you know exactly what they are doing, if you want to ask them to avoid this area during the day because you know like your population is resting or this kind of thing. So this was the first an example of what we are doing with remote sensing and deep learning. And now I'm going to show you what we can do with passive acoustic monitoring for the Henon-Gibbons call. So the Henon-Gibbons call is this little monkey, very cute. It's classified as critically endangered by the USN Red List. And actually, there is only one population left of this individual in China. So in 2017, only 25 individuals were found, while in 2020, 30 individuals were counted, so which is a little bit of progress, but still it's a very small population. And so here what you have, it's a result of the survey, field survey that have been made in China, so in this island, Hainan. And so they are living quite in a remote area, like a deep forest, so it's quite difficult to find them. And so what we did is we deployed acoustic recorder, where you can see here, to try to find. So this was done in 2010 and in 2011, but we can easily imagine that since they are moved, they are changed, and we put this recorder to try to figure out their habitat range and also try to estimate the number of individuals or try to better just to try to see if we can monitor this population using passive acoustic monitoring. So we deployed this kind of thing, which is acoustic recorders, to record 8 hours each day. And so we obtained 6,000 hours of recording, acoustic recording, with a sampling rate of 9,600 hertz. So I don't know if you are very familiar with acoustic recording and how do we process acoustic recording. So if I make you listen this song. So this is not China, this is France. It's a forest in France. So you can hear some bird, you can hear so it's what you record. But when you want to try to visualize, what you do, you plot your result and you obtain this kind of sequence. So you have all the number according to the time, and you will have these wavelets, but you can see it's not very easy to understand what's happening here or to see some interesting pattern or whatever. So what we are doing most of the time in acoustic, it's we'll use the spectrogram. So here is a spectrogram, and it's like the visual representation of the sound. So I don't know if you are familiar, but you have the time, the frequency, and the amplitude for each frequency and the time given by the by the intensity of the color. And here you can more see like the song of the bird, the different song that you have. If I make you listen it again, you will maybe recognize a bird. But it doesn't work. But I think here, like they have the woodpecker that you may heard in the recording before. So it's what we are using. And for the Gibbon call, it's what it looks like. So it's pulse. So we have 1 pulse, 2 pulses, 3 pulses, or duets. It's when 2 are singing at the same time. And yeah, if I can make you listen. So this is a gibbon skull in China. So this is not a gibbon, and now it's a gibbon. So to give you an example. So what we do, we use, again, a deep learning algorithm. So this is architecture, but we don't really care. What I wanted to show you here, it's the kind of data that we give. So what we do is we give the spectrogram, like a window of the spectrogram, and then the algorithm is telling us, okay, there is a gibbon in this image, or there is no gibbon. A little bit like the dog or the cat is learning the feature of the image, and is able to say if there is a gibbon or no gibbon. So it's quite convenient, because when you have 6,000 hours of acoustic recording, you don't want to listen everything. So you just use the algorithm, and the algorithm is able to tell you, okay, it's gibbons or no gibbons. So it's just a sample that we use to test the accuracy, and you can see that it's quite convenient. And what's the application of that? But then you can use on your recording, and you can, like, for example, they discover, using this algorithm, that the gibbons is particularly active during the morning, but not during the day, and this kind of thing. So you can learn a lot of things using machine learning, like preprocessing, all this kind of data. Okay, and the last example that I wanted to show you today, it's kind of a new project that we are starting at Ames with a student, and it's monitoring Cape Town's endangered African penguins. So again, the situation, the status of the population. So penguins are classified as endangered species on the IUCN Red List. I don't know if you have seen them. They are very close. There are quite a few colonies at Cape Town. And so in South Africa, so the global population is declining by nearly 65% since 1989. And in South Africa, the number of African penguins breeding pairs has declined by 73%. So from 42,500 breeding pairs in 1991 to 1,400 pairs in 2021. So there is a study that says that based on rate of population decline at the time, it was predicted that the population along the west coast of South Africa could be functionally extinct by 2035 should no further action be implemented. So there is, again, it's also a species with whom there is a huge decline. Obviously, there is a lot of action that has been implemented, and maybe people are here working on this kind of population. And so what we were thinking is maybe we can help them with providing a video recording system that would allow to identify the behavior. So we just record a colony, and the algorithm would be able to say, okay, this penguin is like eating, sleeping, or this kind of thing. So what do you know about African penguins? I don't know a lot. I didn't do my PhD on African penguins, so I don't know a lot. And maybe some people know better than me. So what I know is they are living in colony. So I found this picture represent well the colony, but also the fact that the population is declining quite a lot. So this picture was taken in Namibia in 2017, if I'm correct, by Thomas Peshak. And so they are living in colonies, so we are thinking maybe a system that records the colony and is able to detect like anomaly or like not very normal behavior like agitation or whenever these kind of things, if it can help nature, park conservation or this kind of thing. I know also that the penguins live by pairs, so here maybe you have like the female of the male, so they are mating together and they are staying apparently for life. And so both parents take care of the chicks, so most of the time one stays at the nest and the other one, or the female of the male, go to forage to bring them food. And what's happening also, it's a lot of reserve try to use artificial nests to help them to survive. Because what's happening, so the main cause of the decline of the penguins, it's because the guano. So we collected too much guano from the colony. So the guano was a substance that they used to build the nest, which protect them against the heat. And so because we collected it after war, because it was quite a good fertilizer, they don't have it. So now they are nesting on the ground, and they are quite still sensitive to the heat. So what they found is maybe by allowing them to giving them like artificial nest, it can help them to breed and to take care of the chicks. So what we were thinking is if we are recording maybe not at the colony level but more at the nest, and we would be able to detect like interaction with the parents with the chicks to see how much are they giving food, how long, all this kind of information. It can help nature conservation to better understand what's happening with the population. So how do we want to do? Obviously we want to use deep learning. So it will be like, so it's an ongoing project, so the student is working on it, so we don't still have a result. But the algorithm would like first identify the penguins on the image, on the video. Then there will be a posture estimation algorithm. We will identify the different body part of the individual. And from this location, then we will have another algorithm, like we will learn which behavior it is according to this location. So yeah, so we have already like algorithm running for pose estimation, but obviously we are going to work on it. And we are also very interesting, like to see if it's possible to have the interaction and all this kind of thing. So we are working with the two ocean aquarium because it's way easier to work with a captive population at the beginning to try to develop method. So far we are going to the aquarium, we are taking video of the individuals, and then we try to implement algorithm to do that automatically. And also a further project that we want to do, it's kind of a real-time monitoring. So it's something that we are going to try as well at the aquarium, which is like quite a controlled environment, so it's easy to try. So it's this kind of thing that we are using. It's a Raspberry Pi, so it's a very like, this is kind of a small computer that you can put code or whatever, so you can, we can even maybe try to implement an algorithm in this Raspberry Pi, which would be able to process the data like in real time monitoring. And when everything is built, it's a very small camera that we are going to try to deploy on the for like several days in the aquarium and to see how can we have real time. And this can be then implemented in colonies and try to help for conservation measure or this kind of thing. So the conclusion, it's that there is important potential of deep learning in wildlife monitoring. So you know there is a huge like investment by the big company in human in industry, but it still takes some time to go through ecology, conservation, and so it's what we are trying to do. Obviously, we are still a small team. We are growing, but we are still a small lab. But yeah, we really try to. What we are doing is just we are stealing some idea from industry, and we're trying to adapt to conservation and ecology. And obviously, there is a lot of avenue to explore, which is quite stimulating as well, and a lot of possibilities to improve wildlife monitoring. And maybe as a last message that I wanted to say, it's we are open for collaboration and new projects. Obviously, we are still a small team, so we can't work on a lot of projects at the same time. And we are mostly motivated by conservation, but we're also a research lab. So to survive, we have to publish, obviously. So, but yeah, mostly if we can help, I don't know, who people have data, they don't know what to do, they need to pre-process this, we can pre-process it automatically. We are quite open for new project or collaboration. So here we have my contact if you want to send me a message or to follow us on Twitter, which is not Twitter anymore. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for your attention. And I think we have a lot of time for questions.
In order to implement the machine learning and the algorithm, what kind of process is required? And from an energy or battery perspective, how do you let it last as long as possible?
So, like you mean the recorder or the algorithm? Because it's not the algorithm. It's not in the recorder yet. it's also something in South Africa that we are struggling because compared to United States or Europe who have a big resources, because to run a deep learning algorithm we need GPU. It's not something that we have on our computer, so we need like cloud or all of this to run our model. But yeah, we found some. We are working with Stellenbosch, Nithek, and they provide us some GPU. But yeah, so it's something that we are really focused in our lab. It's to try to have like very light model in this way, like every researcher, because ecologist or even like a conservation practitioner doesn't have GPU on their computer. So we really want a light model that they can run in their computer, and like they don't need GPU or whatever to do that.
Matt, do you have a question?
So what do you do regarding the current data that you have collected? And for example, for the turtles, do you still provide information to the fishes that are next to the turtles, or it has been one information at one moment? So is it still working? I mean.
So there is still some work in progress. So we are deploying accelerometer on green turtle on hawksbill now in Martinique. So I'm not really part. So it was doing my PhD. So now I moved here. So, but I know there is we are in the national action as well. It's part of the national action. So then I know there are a lot of meetings, and they are using this. They are using this kind of information to make decision about the next move to do for the reserve or this kind of thing. But it's so far it's not real time monitoring. It's like we are deploying on the individual, then we get back the logger, and then we apply on the computer. So it takes some time to get the data and to get the information. And yeah, it's something ongoing project. And we also want to do that. So in the leatherback in South Africa, in South Africa we can do it as well. But in French Guiana, on the hawksbill, and like all the we want to extend this method to the other species in Martinique and French Guiana as well.
Hello. What made you decide on 50 hertz for the turtles, for capturing 50 hertz and not anything like, do you know if it's possible to get behavior classification with a lower hertz, or if that's like the lowest that you can use to get behavioral data out of it?
Sorry, I don't really get the question.
I was just curious, like, why 50 hertz, and if you could use a lower sampling rate and still ascertain behavioral data out of it, or like just why 50 hertz as opposed to like a lower or higher
50
sample rate?
Oh, so so we got some data at 50 hertz, but we are using 20 hertz, and yeah, so we try with 50, but we are thinking that 20 it's big. We have enough information with 10 to 20. It's not very like scientific proved, but it's just because also. Yeah, I don't think we are running out of memory, but like it's quite huge data if we are recording of 50 or 100. So we thought 50 maybe it's enough because it's quite basic behaviors, and it should be enough to get the information that we need, or the algorithm needs to identify the behaviors.
I guess you're probably aware of the caracals eating the penguins at Boulders Beach. So the equivalent of an American or a French bobcat comes down the mountain and is actually predating on the penguins on the beach at night, and they've eaten about 300 penguins this year already, and it's a big contentious human-wildlife conflict thing because some people don't want the caracals removed, but it's... so my question is, do you think this can go all the way, that you can deploy your cameras around the colony of Boulder Beach and then identify when they're actually running and trying to get away from a caracal at night, and it can actually send a signal to the security to actually come and intervene and chase the caracals away? because
Yeah.
that's the direct, real conservation application of this. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, it will be like the perfect application that we can do. And so most of the time, so we are in our lab and we are thinking, okay, they are doing that in industry and human, what we can do. And the thing is, we don't know the situation. So that's why I think it's important at some point to meet and say, okay, you need this kind of thing, so we can work on it to have this kind of information and try to help implement this kind of algorithm that is needed. So yeah, obviously we are like communicated. We try to interact and to with some sandpark or some reserve, but yeah, always I didn't know all about this, so it's quite a good information, important information, and so we need the data to identify. I mean, to train the model to do that, and then the real-time monitoring as well. It's something that we are working on it, and that we hope we can extend to other situations. So yeah.
How about you guys collaborating with other tech developers, or are you getting to the point of developing products that will be available at scale, or is it you're on the testing R&D side?
We are very on the scientific part, so we are not really. We try to provide like a software or easy application for the ecologists, but we are not very software developer or this kind of thing, so we don't go very further. But I know it's something what Emmanuel wanted to do, like start a kind of a small company to do that, and like have a software developer to do that, because it's something that we develop the algorithm, but then you can't use it because you don't know how to run them. So that's why it's kind of a tricky thing. We have like people with some need, we have people that can help them, and then we also need like software developer to put everything. And I guess EarthRanger is doing this kind of work as well. So, so yeah.
I've got one more question. In terms of the number of individuals that you'd need to monitor to get the data from to train the algorithm, is there a magic number or a minimum number that you would need?
So most of the time we don't have enough data because it's like big model and they need a lot of data. So we try to. So there is a lot of. So what I show you is the most application part, but there is a lot of technical development that we are doing as well. So we are trying to do data augmentation, transfer learning, all these methods that help us to train the model even if we don't have a lot of data, because we are working with endangered species, and like for the turtle it's disturbance, so we try to avoid as much as possible. So yeah, we don't have enough data, and we just try to find new technique like mathematical operation to help us to have good results even if we don't have enough data.
Hi, I'm just checking. I know with birds, there is certain systems which they use that already they've collected some sounds for certain species of birds or some frequencies. How is that one that you used with the gibbons different from the one that they are currently using for birds?
It's the same data, I think.
Is it the same sort of approach that you're using?
Yes. So with the gibbons, what we are using is just detection. So we just say, okay, there is a gibbon call. With the bird, I think we have to do a classification. So we have to detect the bird song and then to say which species it is. So it's kind of a different algorithm, but it's the same data. We deploy like recorder, acoustic recorder, and then we try to automatically preprocess everything.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Did you do any data augmentation for the audio analysis just because I know for audio stuff, augmentation can be tricky. I'm just curious if you had to deal with that at all.
Yeah, we do, but like very simple stuff like time shift or mask, or so very classic one. I mean, we have a student working on generative algorithm to try to generate new data from existing data sets. So we are working also on this thing, but so far we're just using very classic, easy to implement data augmentation thing.
Can I ask how many people in the room? This is an ML session, right? I'm not supposed to be moderating, but I'm just here. How many people are using machine learning, or have you joined out of curiosity? Okay. What would be your dream scenario for someone to come up and talk to you afterwards? Who would you love to hear from?
I don't know, just like I wanted to present this because I was thinking maybe there are a lot of people with a lot of data and they don't know what to do. And we are like, okay,
we're here.
Yeah, we want to, I mean, I personally want to work in conservation more than the development of new techniques. So I was like, try to help in conservation as well. So if like someone have a project or want to work on it, and we can try to develop new model, and so this would be the kind of question that I would be interesting to listen to hear.
Okay, I'll put out a case for you. We develop new synthetic aperture radar to look for snares. Right?
Yeah.
So what we do is we put out snares in the field. We fly the drone with synthetic aperture radar, and we get this really messy signature. So an application for exactly what you want is we differentially GPS the snares, right? And we've got this really noisy data, and we want to find the signal of the snare in this noisy data. And we've got the training set, because we can say, we can ask the AI, how does this pixel, it's not really a pixel, but it's easy to imagine it, the difference from its adjacent pixels, it's fantastic. AI, we do lots of stuff with accelerometers. We've got 2-gram accelerometers on molds, and we can find out the colony for 2 weeks what their behavior is underground. It's amazing.
Yeah, so there is a lot of things, and I wanted to show another example from a German also lab that are doing a lot with drone and image satellites. So there is a lot of things to do. There is a huge potential, and so just because we are thinking we are based in South Africa, so it would be nice to collaborate with South African also like conservation reserve or this kind of thing. Yeah.
Final comments, questions from anyone? I'm aware there's another ML. Meredith, you're hosting a machine learning.
Tomorrow at 9:15.
Henrik, are you talking in that as well? No. Okay. Okay. Any questions from up that corner for a specific use case over here? As someone who's in this space as well.
Has there been any thought on deploying onto edge devices, or you focus mostly on lab GPU?
Did everyone hear that?
I don't know if that was something that was asked earlier.
So yeah, we are planning to have a PhD on that. So it's like we are growing, and so it's our next